I finally stopped financially supporting my sister, and now my family says I abandoned her. I'm writing this because I genuinely don't know anymore if I'm a terrible person or if I just finally hit my limit. I'm a 34-year-old man. I have a younger sister, 29. For most of our lives I've been the responsible one. Good grades, stable job, no major drama. She's always been different. Emotional, impulsive, constantly finding herself. Growing up, that dynamic was normal. I was expected to manage. She was expected to struggle and be helped. That expectation never really went away. How it started. When my sister went to college, our parents helped a bit, but not much. I was already working full-time, and I started covering things temporarily. Textbooks, phone bill, occasional rent shortfalls. At first, it felt normal. She was studying. I could afford it. Then, temporary, became permanent. She changed majors twice. Took semesters off. Dropped classes. Always had a reason. Every time I asked when she planned to be financially independent, the answer was vague. I'm figuring things out. Everyone has their own timeline. You're lucky you're not like me. The emotional pressure. The money wasn't the hardest part. The hardest part was the emotional framing. If I hesitated to help, I wasn't just saying no, I was not believing in her. Acting superior. Abandoning family. My mom would call and say things like, "She's sensitive, you know that. She looks up to you. You don't want her to feel like a failure." So I paid. Rent. Groceries. Car repairs. Medical bills. I told myself, once she's stable, it'll stop. She never became stable. Living arrangements. 2 years ago, she moved in with me. Supposedly for 3 months, while she looked for work. She stayed for 14. She didn't pay rent. She didn't contribute to utilities. She slept until noon and stayed up all night. Whenever I brought it up, she'd cry. Say she felt judged. Say I didn't understand her anxiety. Say I was making home feel unsafe. I started working longer hours just to avoid being there. The breaking pattern. What finally changed things wasn't one big event. It was repetition. I noticed that. She always had money for takeout and clothes. But never for rent. She rejected jobs she felt were beneath her. But had no issue with my money supporting her lifestyle. And I noticed something worse. She wasn't grateful. Help was expected. Refusal was betrayal. The moment everything snapped. 6 months ago, I told her I couldn't cover her credit card bill anymore. She laughed. Actually laughed. And said, "You make good money. Why are you acting broke?" That sentence hit me harder than any argument ever had. Because in that moment, I realized something awful. She didn't see me as a brother. She saw me as a resource. Setting the boundary. I gave her 3 months' notice. I said I wouldn't pay her expenses anymore. She needed to move out. I would help with job applications, not money. She didn't take it seriously. She thought I'd cave. When the 3 months ended, I stopped paying. That's when everything exploded. Family fallout? My sister told everyone I cut her off without warning. My mom called crying. My aunt said I was cruel. A cousin told me, "Men don't abandon their sisters." No one asked how long this had been going on. No one asked what it cost me. They just saw her distress, my refusal, and decided I was the villain. How I feel now. I feel guilty, relieved, angry, calm, sometimes all at once. I miss the idea of having a sister, not the reality of being financially responsible for another adult. I don't know if I did the right thing. All I know is that continuing would have destroyed me. Things got worse after I cut my sister off. I thought the worst part would be the guilt. I was wrong. The worst part was how quickly the narrative turned against me, and how coordinated it felt. The immediate aftermath. Within days of me stopping financial support, my phone started blowing up. Not from my sister. From everyone else. Texts like, "She's not eating. She's crying nonstop. You know how fragile she is." The message was clear. Her emotional state was now my responsibility. Meanwhile, my sister posted vague things on social media. "Some people only love you when you're useful. Blood means nothing when money does." People commented with hearts. With, "Stay strong." With, "Family should never do this." I stayed silent. That silence made them angrier. She tried to negotiate, emotionally. A week later, she showed up at my door. Unannounced. She didn't yell. She didn't cry at first. She acted reasonable. She said, "I don't need much. Just help until I get back on my feet." "You're overreacting." I asked her one simple question. "What's your plan?" She froze. Then she said, "I thought you'd help me figure that out." That's when I realized something terrifying. She never planned to stand on her own. The guilt tactics escalated. When reason didn't work, the guilt came back heavier. She told relatives I'd changed, that I'd become cold since my promotion, that I cared more about money than family. My mother stopped asking how I was. She only updated me on how badly my sister was doing. Always in detail. Always emotionally loaded. Not once did anyone ask, "How long have you been supporting her? Did she ever plan to stop?" The truth slips out. About a month after she moved out, I ran into one of her friends. Someone who didn't know about the family drama. They said something that made my stomach drop. "Oh yeah, she mentioned you were cutting her off eventually, but she said you'd never actually do it. She said you always cave." Always cave. That wasn't fear. That wasn't confusion. That was strategy. Realizing the pattern. Looking back, everything clicked into place. She never budgeted because she didn't need to. She never committed to jobs because money was guaranteed. She framed herself as fragile so others wouldn't expect accountability. And worst of all, I had helped build that system. Not intentionally. Not maliciously. But consistently. When the family turned openly hostile. 2 weeks later there was a family meeting. I wasn't invited. I found out because my cousin texted me afterward. "They're really disappointed in you." Disappointed. Like I'd failed a test. Apparently the conclusion was, I should at least, partially, support her. Maybe cover rent. Or groceries. Or just until she's stable. I realized then. There would never be a finish line. The final conversation with my sister. She called me late one night. She was angry now. She said, "You think you're better than me. You left me when I needed you most. If something happens to me, it's on you." That last sentence crossed something inside me. I replied calmly, "I love you. But I'm not responsible for your life." She hung up. We haven't spoken since. Where I am now, I still feel guilt. But I also feel something new. Clarity. I see now that helping without limits isn't kindness. It's control and dependency. I didn't abandon my sister. I stopped enabling her. And the people who benefited from the arrangement are the ones who are angriest that it ended. What I'm struggling with. I keep asking myself, did I wait too long? Did I help too much? Did I create this situation? Maybe. But I also know this. I can't light myself on fire to keep someone else warm. Not anymore. The fallout I didn't expect. I thought once I set my boundary, things would stabilize. They didn't. They collapsed. 3 months later. For about 3 months, I heard nothing directly from my sister. Only fragments. She had moved in with a friend. Then another. Then back to our mom, briefly. Each situation ended the same way. Misunderstandings. Toxic environments. People turning on her. Funny how the common denominator never changed. Then I got the call. The emergency that wasn't mine. It was my mom. Crying. She said my sister was having a breakdown, that she couldn't cope, that she was overwhelmed and needed help. Now, I asked, is she in danger? Silence. Then, no, but. I stopped her there. Because that pause told me everything. This wasn't an emergency. It was a test. The offer that revealed everything. A week later, my sister finally reached out. Not to apologize. Not to talk. To propose a deal. She said, if you help me for just 1 year, I'll get my life together. I'll go back to school. I'll get therapy. I'll pay you back. I asked her, why 1 year? She said, that feels reasonable. Reasonable, to her. I asked again, what's your plan if I say no? She didn't answer. She just said, I didn't think you would. That's when I knew. She hadn't changed. She had just adjusted the pitch. When I said no, again. This time, I didn't explain. Didn't justify. Didn't argue. I said, I'm not doing this anymore. And then I did something I'd never done before. I ended the conversation. Blocked her number. Muted the family chat. Stepped out of the role entirely. What happened after I stepped away? Here's the part people don't expect. She didn't fall apart. She didn't end up homeless. She didn't spiral endlessly. She got a job. A real one. Not her dream, but stable. She moved in with roommates. Not ideal, but manageable. She survived. And that realization hit me like a punch to the chest. She was always capable. She just didn't need to be, while I was there. The family's reaction. When it became clear I wasn't coming back to fix things, the tone changed. The accusations softened. The pressure stopped. The drama moved on. Because without my participation, there was nothing left to push against. People found new topics. New problems. New villains. And I faded out of the story they were telling. What I've learned. Here's what I know now. Support without boundaries isn't love. Sacrifice without consent breeds resentment. And being the reliable one is dangerous if no one checks on you. I didn't ruin my sister's life. I stopped financing it. And those are not the same thing. Update 6 months later. Since a few people asked? No, we're not close anymore. Yes, it still hurts sometimes. No, I don't regret my decision. My sister is functioning. Not thriving, but functioning. Which proves the hardest truth of all. My help was never the solution. It was the delay. Final thoughts. If you're reading this and wondering whether you're the bad guy for stepping back, ask yourself this. If you disappeared tomorrow, would they learn to stand? Or would they only be angry that the safety net is gone? Because that answer tells you everything.